Why would an entire people build a ritual so dangerous that performing it even once meant they would never be seen again? And more disturbingly, why did every neighboring tribe warn outsiders never to mention their name aloud, claiming the forest itself remembers what humans should forget? The accounts begin like a whisper, scattered across forbidden archives. A remote Amazonian community that existed for centuries, yet left behind no bodies, no graves, no trace of habitation. Only an unburned ring of earth, where they supposedly performed their final ritual. A people known in fragments, in coded missionary notes, in sealed ethnographic files, in rumors that governments and academics alike dismissed as indigenous myth. But the fragments align too eerily, too cleanly, too consistently to ignore. History's official record names them cautiously. A minor seasonal nomadic group, nothing unusual, nothing worth global attention. Described as forest dwellers who moved with rains, living humbly, harvesting roots, weaving luminous plant fibers under moonlight, and fading silently into the dense green. Anthropologists referred to them as transient and elusive, the kind of community that left barely a footprint on the soil. Their presence was confirmed by campfire remnants, hand-woven baskets, trails cut with deliberate geometric patterns, and a single set of rock paintings etched so faintly they seemed to recede into the stone. To most of the world, that is all they were. A quiet, harmless Amazonian microculture, a footnote, a shadow, a tribe so small, so isolated, that their disappearance would not have been considered extraordinary, if not for the testimony of explorers who insisted they had witnessed something the official record refused to acknowledge, something that pierces the boundary between anthropology and the absurd. The public narrative tries to remain simple. They lived, they moved, they might have died. End of story. But the documents hidden behind academic respectability tell something else entirely. That on the final night anyone ever saw them, a ring of fire surrounded their gathering. The chanting suddenly stopped. The flames collapsed inward, and every single person vanished without a trace. No ashes, no bones, no footprints escaping into the jungle. Only the unburned earth, cold by dawn. The clip of that official narrative remains a silhouette, a foggy outline of a people history insists were ordinary. But the deeper records suggest that their final act was not a disappearance. It was an exit, designed, planned, and rehearsed for generations. And all that remains of their last known moment is a cluster of objects sealed in a climate-controlled archive, protected by a layer of bureaucracy that scholars call procedural caution, but locals refer to as fear disguised as paperwork. Welcome to NoetEra, Worlds Within, where the secrets of civilizations, erased rituals, and vanishing cultures are brought back into the light. Stay until the last frame. And subscribe if you dare to follow histories that were never meant to be spoken aloud. The reason this investigation refuses to fade is simple. The contradictions are too loud. No organic explanation aligns with the physical evidence. Every conventional theory collapses under scrutiny. A tribe cannot vanish without bodies. Yet every excavated layer of soil at their alleged final site remains untouched, undisturbed, geologically unchanged for centuries. No signs of migration, warfare, disease, or burial. And the most unsettling detail, surrounding tribes who openly discuss war, famine, colonial violence, and every other painful memory, refuse to speak of this group, lowering their voices, performing protective gestures, and redirecting conversations as if mentioning them risks inviting something back. one of the few preserved testimonies from a 19th century Tucano elder contains a single line. They walked out of this world the moment the sky bent. No further explanation, no context. That sentence alone was enough for early ethnographers to dismiss anything related to this tribe as myth. Yet the material archive suggests the opposite. Scattered over decades and continents, fragments of documentation form a jagged mosaic, a clay tablet etched with spirals found in an abandoned Jesuit storehouse, a missionary's coded journal recovered from a Parisian library basement, a torn page from a naturalist's notebook written in a panic, and a government transcript of an expedition that was abruptly canceled and classified. Together, they reconstruct a faint outline of the group's final days. One account, preserved in a private collection, describes a clearing shaped into a perfect circle, too perfect to be natural. Within it, woven artifacts arranged in radial symmetry, their fibers stained with a resin that glows faintly under certain light. The official report calls it ritual, positioning. A later revision calls it evidence of cultic mass, delusion. Yet a third draft, never released publicly, states bluntly, the pattern is non-functional. It appears ceremonial, possibly a reenactment of an event no longer remembered. But a fourth document contradicts them all. It was found decades later in a sealed wooden chest belonging to an anonymous field researcher. On its brittle pages, written in a hurried scrawl, they say the final ritual was not meant to summon anything. It was meant to unbind something. Another record shifts the pendulum in the opposite direction entirely. This time from an ethnographer who interviewed a nearby tribe's elders. They called the vanished ones the children of the unreturning path. They believed the earth opens only once in each age, and only those who prepare their spirit through fire may cross. A metaphor, a spiritual allegory, or a historical memory fossilized in myth. Scholars argue endlessly, yet the physical footprint refuses to align with symbolic readings. No bodies, no organic decay, no evidence of exodus. The artifacts at the core of the mystery rest now inside a restricted archive, room where temperature, humidity, and light are measured down to decimal precision. The sealed container holds what appears to be the tribe's final ceremonial objects. Itriaceous circular firestones arranged with near mathematical precision. A bundle of fiber cords dyed with pigments from extinct plants. Carved tokens depicting spirals and mirrored figures. And a clay vessel containing a mixture of ash, pollen, and metallic fragments. Yet none of these objects show signs of having been exposed to fire. The stones are pristine. The fibers are uncharred. The vessel shows no soot. And the ash samples, under laboratory analysis, reveal an impossible combination. 0 traces of human remains, but high quantities of a compound not native to any Amazonian region, ancient or modern. Some researchers quietly proposed the possibility of a lost metallurgical technique. Others speculated environmental contamination. But one voice raised a theory considered too dangerous to publish. The compound resembles materials found in impact strata from meteorite events. A natural explanation, yet not a comforting one. Why would a remote Amazonian group use extraterrestrial matter in a seasonal fire ritual? And why did they disappear immediately afterward? Another document challenges the extraterrestrial hypothesis outright. A missionary's letter from 1764 includes a line describing the tribe's practice of gathering the sky's seeds, referring not to stones from above, but glowing fungi harvested during specific lunar phases. These luminescent organisms, still partially unidentified, contain biochemical compounds capable of temporary hallucination. Yet the missionary notes something unnerving. When consumed in the circle of fire, they speak as one voice, though their mouths do not open. The missionary interpreted it as demonic possession. Modern scholars interpret it as hallucinatory collective state. But a third explanation creeps out from indigenous oral traditions, that during the ritual, the tribe claimed to be remembering who we were before arriving here. The language is metaphorical, or metaphysical, or deliberately obscured, but the consistency of these testimonies across generations troubles historians. Why would unrelated tribes repeat the same phrasing? And why did they refuse to draw the vanished tribe symbols, warning that to trace the lines is to invite the path? The pendulum swings again, with the emergence of a rare field audio recording from the 1950s, grainy, distorted, but partially transcribable. In it, an elderly informant describes a night when distant chanting stopped abruptly, followed by a silence so complete that even the insects paused. Then he whispers, "The forest inhaled." His translator, clearly unsettled, ends the interview. The recording ends mid-sentence. Scientific analysis of the ritual site offers yet another contradiction. Soil samples taken from the inner ring show no signs of disturbance. No footprints, no biological residue, no trace that dozens, perhaps hundreds of people once stood there. And yet the outer perimeter contains evidence of decades of human passage. It is a paradox, a ring that was inhabited but never stood upon. This anomaly sparked a new wave of interpretations. One group of researchers argued that the tribe performed a symbolic ritual and then migrated deeper into the jungle. Another proposed that the tribe may have been massacred by outsiders, their traces deliberately hidden. A more radical faction suggested ritual suicide, though this collapses instantly under scrutiny. Where are the bodies? The remains, the burial grounds. Theories multiply. None align. Then comes the most forbidden question in the archive. What if the ritual was not meant to honor something, but to escape something? Evidence for this emerges in a brittle manuscript written by a Portuguese soldier around 1620. The text is difficult to decipher, filled with conflicting grammar and damaged ink. But one paragraph stands out. These people fear no man. They fear no animal. They fear only the night when the air becomes still. They say in that hour the world thins, and something walks behind the trees, searching for those who belong elsewhere. The manuscript never specifies what elsewhere means. Scholars argue it refers to ancestral spirits. Others propose a metaphor for colonial invasion. But a few, reading between the lines, suggest that the tribe believed they were the descendants of a people that migrated from another region or another plane of existence. This is where anthropology and cosmology begin to blur, and most academics refuse to continue. Past reconstruction attempts to piece together the tribe's final days. Eyewitness fragments suggest a growing tension among them. Symbols changed, chants lengthened. The ring expanded year by year, as though they were preparing for something monumental. One testimony describes them weaving spectral garments of light-infused fiber, passing them from elder to youth. Another references a counting of the returning, a ceremony in which participants recited numbers that do not exist in their language's numerical system. Then the last known witness speaks of the night. The fire was lit, a towering ring that rose without smoke. Participants circled it, chanting, swaying, bearing symbols painted in metallic pigment. When the chanting reached its peak, the flames folded inward, not outward, collapsing into the center like a closing eye. And when dawn came, only the cold ring remained. The narrative becomes even more tangled when a coded message found in an old Jesuit archive is decrypted. Its final lines read, "Their ritual is not a calling, it is a remembering. And when they remember fully, They do not remain. What does that imply? Collective trance? Mass psychosis? Spontaneous migration? A carefully engineered departure? Or something that defies the categories historians cling to? The pendulum swings again with accounts of a French botanist who visited the region shortly before the disappearance. His surviving notes, written days before he vanished himself, include: the tribe speaks of a place beneath the world's skin, a doorway formed only when the fire is lit in perfect silence. They say entering it means one must abandon the human way of being. He describes luminous fungi woven into ceremonial structures, their glow intensifying during the ritual. He mentions hearing low harmonic tones that did not come from their throats. And he ends with, "They are preparing, and I fear they will succeed." He never returned to France. Present-day investigators studying the remnants note another contradiction. Surrounding tribes insist the vanished group was not fully human. Some describe them as borrowed people, individuals who walked differently, spoke differently, aged differently. Others claim they had blood that did not darken, even in sickness. These descriptions may be symbolic or misinterpreted, but the insistence with which they are repeated raises an unsettling question. Did surrounding tribes believe these people were not native to the region, or not native to the human lineage at all? A more grounded theory suggests the tribe mastered a rare, botanical sedative, allowing them to enter a collective trance so deep they stopped emitting typical biological markers detectable in soil. Another proposes they possessed a forgotten migratory route through subterranean caves, enabling them to vanish with precision. But each hypothesis encounters the same obstacle: the timeline. Every record suggests the disappearance occurred in a single night. A migration of that scale, that speed, leaving no bodies, remains, ashes, or debris, logistically improbable. Another document emerges from a diplomatic file, unpublished, unsigned, but stamped with multiple approval seals. Its final paragraph states, "The clearing will be monitored, but left undisturbed. Excavation attempts have produced environmental anomalies. Further investigation is inadvisable. Environmental anomalies. No explanation, no elaboration." The file ends abruptly. One final piece complicates the case beyond repair: a mural discovered on a sandstone wall far from the tribe's known territory. It depicts a group of elongated figures walking through a ring of fire, emerging on the opposite side as silhouettes with inverted patterns. The mural predates all known references to the tribe. Its artists remain unknown. What was it documenting? A migration myth, a spiritual metaphor, or a literal representation of the tribe's final ritual? All evidence collides into a single question that pushes the boundaries of accepted anthropology. What if the tribe did not disappear into the forest, but into something the forest contains? The theory is controversial, dangerous, academically risky, yet the data refuses to collapse under skepticism. No bodies, no graves, no ash, no bones, no aftermath, only that cold, unburned ring of earth with chemical signatures inconsistent with any known Amazonian material. And the surrounding tribes, who recount war and trauma without hesitation, whisper a single warning: do not search for them. They did not die. They simply left. Whether these whispers point to a forgotten truth, a collective trauma, an esoteric ritual misinterpreted by outsiders, or an elaborate cultural memory shaped by centuries of fear, remains unresolved. Whether the tribe engineered a disappearance, succumbed to an environmental phenomenon, or stepped into a symbolic or literal threshold beyond recorded human experience is unknowable. Whether their final ritual was a mass escape, a cosmological reenactment, a convulsive act of faith, or a misinterpreted tragedy, only the fragments speak, and they speak in contradictions. And whether this vanished tribe crossed into myth, into history, or into something neither world recognizes, is yours to decide. If these echoes and forbidden fragments compel deeper exploration into vanished cultures, erased rites, and civilizations that slip through the cracks of recorded memory, subscribe to NoetEra Worlds Within and continue the descent into histories the world tries to forget.